So what we can do with this, again, this is another tool available on the extranet where we can create and link RFIs to specific objects. Again, not just native objects, IFC reference models objects as well. Then we'll be able to colorize the model based on the RFI status, whether it's open, overdue, or closed. And we can have the tool automatically check for us if there are things that are overdue. And then you could publish to an HTML or FTP site or just zip up and mail them. So I'll go ahead and show this workflow quickly on a given area within the actual model. So you can see here I have a couple RFIs that I've already created. We referenced this one. We're missing some of these connections that I column up here. You'll see how it did remember my clip planes and everything. I can come in here and give it a specific number. Here I can assign it a status, the subject. Here you can populate information, contact information of who these RFIs are going to be transferred back and forth in the contact form for the from and the to. You can tag the date that you created it, when you want a due date, when it should be returned, and that way we'll be able to check and see if there's any overdue RFIs. And then here will be, you'll just come in and list out all of the information about the RFI. And we can also put in images. You can include attachments as well. If I go ahead and print this, just to close this, what you'll see is this creates an HTML. You can edit it with just a simple HTML, so you can put in your logo, your date and information, and this is how it'll show up, and it'll include all the attachments and everything. So pretty handy little way to be able to log this information. So if I again double click on another one, it'll zoom me in. I got an issue here with the edge of slab. So to start totally from scratch, I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new one, and I'll just call this RFI 11. Status is going to be open, and my issue is that these objects right here, I'll just go ahead and highlight them in the model, are architecturally exposed, and I don't have any of the paint requirements yet for these, so I'm just going to say ASS paint specs. There we go. And this will be from Lee to my boss Mark, and then I can choose any date that I want in here, so whatever, it'll automatically populate a due date for you if you want, and then when you do get a response, we can track it here. Obviously we don't have one, so I'm just going to say please provide a paint specs, if I can type. There we go. Okay, so I have these objects selected, so I'm just going to click on this linked objects button so that those will be stored with the RFI. A couple of these other tools, when I open an RFI, I can click on this and it'll highlight the objects. And you can also create from the objects you have selected a 3D RFI. What that does is it creates an IFC, a small IFC model of these objects that I have highlighted. So if you're coordinating something with an engineer who doesn't have your model, you can create an IFC of these objects. He could bring it in and overlay it over his model and see how it's clashing or conflicting with his steel. So you can insert that, delete it, and everything like that. I'll also set this view, so when I double click on this, it'll zoom me back in. And just to show you how we can take a snapshot, I'll just go ahead and size this window, double click like a camera, and it's added there. And I can change this name to be whatever I want. So I'll just go ahead and save this, and then I can close this and renumber these. So again, you'll see that's here. So if I zoom back out, double click on this, brings me back into the view and that specific location. Okay, so we have that. Let's go ahead and show you some other features. Let's say you wanted to communicate or relay these RFIs back and forth. Maybe you know, you're sharing with a fabricator or whatever. It's extremely easy if I just come in here and browse to where I have one of these stored here on my desktop. Let me find this. So this is the RFI that would be zipped up using this tool. I can just come in here, drag and drop it, and that RFI 14 is instantly added with all of the information zoomed into that location. So sharing these is extremely easy if you need to pass them back and forth. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to come in here, and you'll notice here this says check for any overdue RFIs. you'll notice all my statuses right now, this one's closed, the rest are open. So I'll check it and it looks at the date and compares it with today's date and tells me if it's overdue or not. So we also have a filtering feature if I type in overdue. So normally you're not just going to have a handful of RFIs on a project, you probably have hundreds. You can easily filter by the overdue ones and then give these your attention to be able to pound through these and get them sorted out. Okay. I'll also click on this show status, and that's going to highlight the model based on the status. So I'm going to have a color for the ones that are closed, which are these here in green. All my overdue RFIs are going to be red, and then my open RFI, the one that I just created, is going to be yellow. Okay. So one other last thing that I'll show you on this, if I'll just redraw this so we can see. But I have an RFI out on this object, so let me try that again. That didn't work. So I'm just going to click on this RFI on objects, and what this is saying is that on this piece of bent plate I have 2 RFIs. Okay, so what you can do is just select an object and see if there's multiple information on there. The reason why we did that is because if you want to use some of our drawing templates and reports that bring in this RFI information, we can only report one in the UDAs unless you create a custom UDA tab to track more. So we're just going to write the most critical one to the UDA, but through the RFI manager you'll be able to see if there's multiples that affect a specific item in the model. Okay. So we have that. Let's go ahead back real quick. Again, just a little review of the RFI manager, what it'll look like, what it can do. But you can customize this pretty well. But again, you have a graphical database, which is the model that's storing all of this information.